Today, we have our summer 2024 video update. I'll walk you through the American parks and talk about what's new, what's changing, and what is being built. If you're new to DHI, this video is a supplement to our weekly podcast, which explores topics related to the Walt Disney Company. You can find our podcast on Apple Podcasts, Spotify, Audible, and elsewhere. Our most recent news-related episodes explore the ins and outs of the new Lightning Lane Multipass, everything you need to know about Tiana's Bayou adventure, and our July omnibus that covers the breadth of the Disney Company. We'll start in California, where out at Disneyland work continues on Tiana's Bayou adventure, which is months behind progress in Florida. Based on the current installation, my guess is that this attraction will open for Thanksgiving, but the big stories this time around are all out in Florida. This past month over at Disney Springs, the resort premiered a 10-minute drone show called Dreams That Soar. There are restaurants where you can book paid reservations to view the show. We talk about exactly how to do that on the podcast episode, but the best spot to watch the show is at the far end of Disney Springs beyond Cirque du Soleil, which is open and free to all. The show is mostly a proof of concept presentation, not yet a full nighttime spectacular, which would weave together various elements such as fireworks, lasers, and projections. For safety, the show is arranged over the water, far from people, and yes, drones have already fallen down into the drink. And here I've put together a few more seconds of footage so you can imagine how these drone elements at a later date might be integrated into a fuller nighttime show, perhaps at one of the parks. In a more peaceful location, over on Seven Seas Lagoon, work continues on the new DVC Polynesian Tower. This will make the Poly one of the largest hotel complex areas anywhere on property. But there should be some stunning views of the water and the Magic Kingdom from the upper floors of the building. It opens this year on December 17th. I'll be out in Florida for the opening, so we'll talk about it more on the podcast then. Over in Epcot, crews have been working for over 4.5 years to remake the central spine of the park. The last element to open is Communicore Hall, which admittedly is a lackluster venue for a centerpiece Disney park, something that has been drastically scaled back from the once planned 3-story festival center. But then COVID and all the lost income that accompanied it, and then some canceled and scaled back projects. Maybe think of it this way. This is really indoor convention space, but Disney is allowing guests to use it when it's not being rented out to companies. Not far away, work continues on a new version of Test Track, this one inspired by the original World of Motion attraction that originally occupied this building. As you can see, some areas have now been gutted inside the structure. And before we leave Epcot today, I want to show you Communicore Hall at night. The inside I know is lackluster, but at night its exterior visual presentation and how it connects with the surrounding area is absolutely lovely. In our last video segment, we are over at the Magic Kingdom. This here is opening day for Tiana's Bayou adventure, which amazingly experienced absolutely no downtime on its first day. On the podcast, we talk about the best way to get a reservation to experience this ride. We also talk about the design elements in detail. But here you can see a figurine of a rabbit, a fox, a bear, and a frog, which are callbacks to the main characters in Splash Mountain. The queue is mostly the backstory for Tiana's early life and the evolution of her business. And again, we talk about what works and what doesn't on the podcast. But one of my favorite aspects of this ride is its outdoor bayou scenes, which are artfully presented and quickly place riders in the ride's environment. The ride also has sensor-driven animatronics whose face and eyes follow passengers in those logs as they pass. And from here, I've collected up about a minute of highlights of Tiana looking for various bands to play at her party, so you can see the attraction for yourself.
You were right. The Bayou's got just what we need.
The bigger you are, the bigger the splash you'll make at the party. You'll get there in no time. Guaranteed.
And with this, you are now up to date with everything going on in the American parks. That is, at least until that new Country Bear show opens up later in July. Before I go, I want to remind you that this video presentation is a short visual companion piece to our podcast. I've been doing this podcast for 11 years now, so I can take you through the ins and outs of the Disney company and explore stories from the past. You can find the DHI podcast, which technically is called the Disney History Institute podcast, through the links below. I hope to see you over there.